Before we move on to the sofa, let's go ahead and add some quick little details to the window coverings that we just built. So a couple of things that I wanted to add to the window coverings are just some little details that will make your interior stand out a little bit. So right now it still looks pretty CG. We got a lot of simple shapes in there. So once you start getting some pieces of furniture in here, some of the little things that you add are going to be able to add some kind of realism and just add a little bit to your scene. So in this case, I want to add some poles to these blinds. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the top view and just come over here to the side, and let's go to create, and let's just create a cylinder. Okay, and let's actually, instead of creating a cylinder, let's go to extended primitives, and let's create a chamfered cylinder. So it'll just give us a little bit more softness on the edges. So we'll go ahead and pull this out, pull up the height, okay, and then go ahead and go to our perspective, and now let's modify some of these settings a little bit. So let's go into the modify panel, turn on edge faces here, and now I want to add the fillet here, so that kind of softens up those edges. Okay, I'm going to add some segments along the height. I'm going to add some fillet segments so that that's kind of nice and smooth. I'll increase the number of sides as we're not going to be smoothing this. Okay, let's also increase the height until we get something like that. Let's add a couple of more fillet segments. Okay, and now what I want to do is take this and shape it a little bit. So I'm going to add a modifier to this. I'll add a taper. So we'll go to the modifier list, and let's go down to the T's, and we'll find taper right down here. So we'll add a taper to that. We'll go ahead and change the taper amount. And this is, I want to kind of taper it down like this. Okay, and once we get that set, we've got everything the way that we want it. I can go ahead and collapse that down to an editable mesh, convert that to an editable poly, and now I can take these polygons up here. Okay, so if I go ahead and select basically all of these guys all the way across. Okay, and I go ahead and do an inset and down to something like that, maybe a little bit smaller. Say OK to that, and then I'll simply do an extrude and just pop that way up. So go ahead and extrude that all the way up into there. Say OK to that, then we can delete those polygons up at the top. Okay, this thing's fairly large, so we want to go ahead and scale this down something smaller. Okay, and we also want to kind of put this in the right position here. You can grab the vertices and just grab the vertices on the end and just pull this up behind this guy right in here. Okay, and now we probably want one to go along with this. So what we can do is just shift, hold this down, pull this across and copy. Now I'll pull this one down a little bit, make this one a little bit longer, and pull that up. And it's things like these that are just going to add a little bit to your scene. You have details like this at various parts, and you don't have to add them everywhere. But if you have little details like that in specific areas of your scene, it's just going to add that much more to what you have going on. Okay, and you probably want to go ahead and take one of these guys and go ahead and duplicate it over to this side, and also add one over by this window here. Go ahead and pull this out, and then we'll add a couple over here. So maybe this one's kind of right in here, and then we'll duplicate another one, pull it over there, grab the vertices of these, and just pull this down. Okay, so there we've added just a little bit more detail to our window coverings, and like I said, we start to do this enough on enough of these pieces, it's going to start to look a lot better than if we had left it out. So those are some of the things that we'll keep in mind as we continue on. Okay, so now that we've got that out of the way, let's now go ahead and start on the sofa itself. So we'll build that up, start to build some of the cushions, we'll add a lot of detail to that. So we'll go ahead and start that process in the next lesson.